Over the past week, the United Kingdom passed sweeping legislation that further restricted access to social media websites like X, Facebook, and TikTok for anyone under the age of 16 years old. This follows the example of Australia, who passed similar legislation that prohibits anyone under the age of 16 from having a social media account. Now, the big question that we want to ask is this a proportional response to the issues that we think social media may be causing? Hi, my name is Mitch Schutte. I'm a therapist, a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, and a person in long-term recovery. And on this channel, we talk about psychological tools and concepts that we can use to help live more meaningful lives. So let's go see what psychology can tell us about how to manage problematic social media use. So the big question is this response warranted? Now, in order to answer that question, we need to go ask the experts and look at the research to see what these damages actually are. So there are two people who came out in the late 2000s, early 2010s, who are whistleblowers against the social media companies. The first one I want to talk about is Tristan Harris. He was an engineer at Google, and basically he came out and said there's a whole team of engineers, and their sole job is to keep you using social media for as long as possible. He basically said, you are not the social media customer for social media companies. The advertisers are, right? Like most people pay no money to social media companies, but advertisers pay them billions. Now, these are publicly traded companies, and publicly traded companies have a duty to their shareholders to increase their revenue as much as possible. Now, because advertisers pay that revenue, and because revenue and ad space costs more when people are using the platform, then the longer that you're on social media websites, the more money that they're going to make. Therefore, those whole team of engineers, their sole job is to keep you using it for as long as you possibly can. And they'll use any ways they can to make that possible. So basically, he said they kind of modeled strategies that Vegas was using to keep people gambling and then just put them on your phone. So they use like variable reward schedule, right? That we'll talk about later and some other things. But you are an N of one to social media companies, which is what most people don't know, right? Like we think we get notifications when people like things, and we think we get notifications like whenever it's normally going to send them. But you are an N of one within the database of social media companies, and you actually receive those when you're most likely to open the social media app and use them. So like you and your friend do not receive notifications at the same time. You receive them when you're most likely to use them. So basically said it's like carrying around a slot machine in your phone, and you're going to pick it up and it's going to be addictive, and that's their goal, is to keep you on there. The other whistleblower is Frances Haugen, and she was brought on by Meta actually to be part of a task force to really identify whether Facebook was problematic for adolescents, and then if so, do something about it. And so she did all this research into the potential mental health damages that social media and Facebook can cause to adolescents, and came up with a bunch of these initiatives to help fix those things. But none of this ever went anywhere. And her contention was that it didn't go anywhere because it would cost the company money to implement these things, and so therefore they didn't do it. So feeling really frustrated, Harris went to the Washington Post and the SEC, and she gave them all the research that they had done into the possible damages that social media can have on a person's mental health. Now, what they found was within Facebook's own research is that social media increases depression, anxiety, self-harm behavior, and eating disorder behavior, particularly in adolescent girls. And so that's why she came out. Now, looking at the research to see whether it backs up what Frances Haugen says, there's a couple different research papers out there. It's a very large meta-analysis that's been released by Pellegrino et al. And basically, it took all the different research that we've done on social media and put it in one spot. And that's the one that these 47 states in the District of Columbia have used to sue social media companies for what's called a failure to warn. Failure to warn is basically a company knows that they're providing a product that can be damaging to someone, and they don't tell them about it. Kind of off of what Frances Haugen said. They knew there was an issue and they didn't do anything. So that Pellegrino et al. Study came out and said people who use social media problematically, and they use the time figure for that one, are more likely to have increased depression, increased anxiety, increased eating disorder behavior, worse sleep, increased self-harm, worse grades, more impulsive behavior, drink and use drugs more often, and actually practice safe sex less. So a lot of different issues that problematic social media use can lead to based on that study. There's another pretty amazing study by Burgeri et al. And if you remember what happened with Facebook, it wasn't rolled out all at one time. You used to have to invite people to Facebook to be on there. And so what would happen is it would like slowly trickle out between schools over time. Now, they looked at the mental health data from all of these college mental health centers, and they found, isolating for all variables but the release of social media at each of these different, or Facebook at each of these different schools, uh, that's the only variable that negatively impacted, that could explain the negative impact that was happening on those specific schools over anything else, which is fascinating, right? Like the release of Facebook led to people being more anxious, more depressed, and feeling like they were doing worse in school than schools that hadn't had a release. So pretty, not causal, but like convincing evidence that that could be an issue, right? And so how is social media doing this, right? If we agree those are issues, then why are people still using it when we all kind of know it's an issue? Well, if you've ever like been on YouTube and like looked up cat videos, or for me, like otter videos, you can get sucked down a rabbit hole really quickly because they're very engaging, right? So social media does a couple things to keep you on there. The first is called a variable reward schedule. So with your personalized algorithms for things that you want to see, that's going to make it more likely for you to stay on there. You're not going to like everything that it shows you, but you're for sure going to like some of them, right? Like knowing that what your search history is, they can definitely give you things that you're going to like. And so because you're not going to like everything and you don't know when it's going to happen, that random variable reward schedule like you see at slot machines, that's going to keep you hooked. That's been proven through classical conditioning to be the best way to get anyone to do something that you want them to do. On top of that, like social media is constantly having a dynamic interaction with you. It's not like a telephone. Like I pick up the phone, I make the call, I put it down, then I leave and the phone stays there. We're all carrying our phones around with us in our pocket, right? And so it's constantly reaching out to you to try and get you to use it more often, which is a huge issue, right? On top of that, the app is constantly updating. Whenever you update that application, most likely you're getting features on there that are going to make it more engaging and more stimulating. I mean, obviously they want it to work better and get rid of bugs, but on top of that, again, duty to their shareholder to help increase their revenue over time. So they want to keep you on there. And so what we see is we have these kids who are under the age of 16, right? There's a team of adults who are highly skilled at what they do, trying to keep them on those websites and platforms. And we're seeing those mental health issues that come along with that in very specific ways that it keeps people addicted to it. And so, kind of an unfair fight, right? Like someone with a not developed prefrontal cortex is going up against a team of like Ivy League engineers. Again, not quite a fair fight. So in my opinion, if we look at like all of this damage that's happening into adolescence, and we're like, okay, little girls go on there, they see people with like these beautiful bodies that they may never have. Maybe there's adult men on there who are trying to like have sex with them because everyone has access to everyone. And then they're getting shown like the most polarized things of all time, right? They found like the most activating and engaging content keeps people on there. So they're not seeing the middle view, like the gray area. The voices that get amplified are the most extreme that people can get. So you're this child and you're going on there and everyone's on there because it's kind of like a team thing that people are doing, and you have massive FOMO if you're not. Like, of course you're going to get on social media, right? And so these bans, the idea of the ban is that the only way to really stop overuse of social media is to cut it off for entire age groups so that they don't really have the option of doing it. Are people going to find ways to get around it? Sure. But like having this massive implementation where we're kind of cutting off for anyone below the age of 16, like Jonathan Haidt, who wrote The Anxious Generation, says, can be a really useful start. Now, ideally, when we're cutting that off, like experts and mental health therapists are working with those children and teachers as well to try and replace that behavior with something else so that they don't go back to social media. But from my vantage point and the research that I've done on it, I actually think this is an incredibly useful thing to do. Now, the argument typically is like, well, how will they learn how to deal with social media if they don't have it? Well, for drugs and alcohol, we don't just like kids like, hey, they're going to be 21 someday. They better figure out how to use it now. No, we're kind of rational about how we do that. We don't let kids drink beer. we don't let kids, use cocaine. We don't let anyone use cocaine, but use like cannabis now. It's decriminalized in some states below a specific age because we know it's hard to make good decisions when you're that age, right? And so looking at this whole thing, I believe that the reaction by England and the United Kingdom and by Australia is actually pretty spot on in this case. So if you've liked this video, consider subscribing to it and come check out our content as we keep releasing it. Thank you.